Hello, my name is Austin Habish, the founder of Think Catholic, and you're listening to the Summa podcast, where we study St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae in a way simple and insightful for anyone to understand. The Summa podcast is brought to you by Think Catholic. Taking 2 questions of the Summa a day, we'll seek to summarize St. Thomas's responses, discovering the brilliance of Aquinas and his Catholic faith. This is day 74. So let's get started. We're covering today questions 26 and 27 of the Prima Secundae, that is, of the passions of the soul in particular, and first, of love, and of the cause of love. The translation that I always use in these podcasts is the one generously provided to me by Ave Maria Press, the 5-volume set translated by the Fathers of the English Dominican province, which you can now get at a discounted price from Ave Maria Press's site by typing in the code SUMMA10. And so here we go. Article 1, whether love is in the concupiscible power. The answer is yes, as we described in the last 2 episodes, but we can say much more. First of all, insofar as everything tends towards some good, we can attribute the term appetite to that thing. To the stone, we find a natural appetite, or tending towards the good of unity, oneness with other massive objects. In the dog, we find a sensitive appetite, or an aptitude to the sensed good. And in us, we have the rational appetite, the will, an inclination to the known good. In each of these appetites, whether natural, sensitive, or intellectual, we can attribute love, provided what we mean by love in each one of these appetites is, according to St. Thomas, the principal movement towards the end. And as applied to the various kinds of appetites, St. Thomas continues saying, in the natural appetite, the principle of this movement is the appetitive subject's connaturalness with the thing to which it tends, and may be called a natural love. The sensitive appetite, or the will to some good, that is, its complacency in good, is called sensitive love or intellectual rational love. Article 2, whether love is a passion. St. Thomas writes, love consists in a change wrought in the appetite by the appetitable object. It is evident that love is a passion. Love is a passion insofar as it is an undergoing in the patient, that's us, caused by some agent, which in this case is the lovable object. When a person looks at a donut, the donut, and becoming present to one's sensitive appetite and being united to us in intention, is the word Aquinas uses here, elicits in us the passion of love, from which desire can follow and finally joy, if one is later actually united to the object of love, which would be in this case by eating the donut. In St. Thomas's words, because the appetitable object moves the appetite, introducing itself, as it were, into its intention, accordingly the first change wrought in the appetite by the appetitable object is called love, and is nothing else than complacency in that object. Article 3, whether love is the same as dilection. It seems to me that often these Latin words amor and dilectio, love and dilection, are used synonymously. But St. Thomas, in taking the term dilectio as akin to electio or choice, takes dilection to denote specifically a chosen love. Therefore, he concludes that love is a broader notion than dilection, and that dilection denotes specifically a rationally willed kind of love within the larger notion of love. Article 4, whether love is properly divided into love of friendship and love of concupiscence. The division of these loves stems from the definition we get from Aristotle on love, which is to wish good to someone. The wished good is loved with a love of concupiscence, for it is not love for its own sake, but for the sake of the someone included in our definition. For example, one loves the donut not for the donut's sake, but that one might eat it. So they love the donut for their own sake or for the sake of a friend enjoying it. The donut is loved with a love of concupiscence, but the someone for whom it is loved for is loved with a love of friendship, whether that someone be oneself or another. And Aquinas' words, man has love of concupiscence towards the good that he wishes to another, and love of friendship towards him to whom he wishes that good. And with that, we move on to question 27 of the cause of love. Article 1, whether good is the only cause of love. Our passions, being a passive power of the soul, must be directed to some object, like the power of sight is directed to receiving color, and therefore must be directed to some good, since good and being are controvertible with one another, to use St. Thomas's words. We covered that in episode 4 of this podcast. Therefore, we must admit that the sensitive appetite, which we term the passions, must be essentially directed and caused by some sensed good. The direction to the good simply considered, a kind of complacency in the good, is our definition of love. Therefore, good is the cause of love. But is it the only cause of love? Do evils also draw our love? Can they be the object of our love? And here St. Thomas reminds us that evil, in whatever arena it happens to be found in, whether in things or in actions, is simply a privation of a good that ought to be there, a missingness in good things. That was the topic of episode 25. And therefore, it cannot be the cause of anything directly, for it is in itself non-being. But goods with certain privations in them, evil things, can be the cause of our love, but only under the aspect of good, as St. Thomas says. Evil is never loved except under the aspect of good. That is to say, insofar as it is good in some respect, and is considered as being good simply. And thus a certain love is evil insofar as it tends to that which is not simply a true good. It is in this way that man loves iniquity, and as much as by means of iniquity some good is gained. Pleasure, for instance, or money, or such like. Article 2, whether knowledge is a cause of love. We cannot love that which we do not first know. If I asked you whether you loved my cousin Matthew, the answer would be no, because probably until this moment you didn't know I had a cousin Matthew. The appetite, whether it be the intellectual appetite, which is the will, or the sensitive appetite, which are the passions, both must necessarily follow apprehension. In the former, that is intellectual understanding, and in the latter, that is just sensual apprehension. But in either case, apprehension comes before appetite. Even natural love, like the rock's tendency towards the ground, and the most efficient means to that end, presuppose a kind of pseudo-knowledge, which is why things like the principle of least action in physics spook scientists, which we've spoken about in previous episodes. How do unknowing things seemingly move knowingly? St. Thomas says, natural love, which is in all things, is caused by a kind of knowledge, not indeed existing in natural things themselves, but in Him who created their nature. And so in response to our article, we can confidently say that yes, whether the love be natural, sensual, or intellectual, knowledge in things is a cause of their love. Article 3, whether likeness is a cause of love. Every creature loves its like, and every person his neighbor, as it is written in the book of Sirach, chapter 13, verse 19. Because we tend naturally to the 3 P's, perfection, preservation, and propagation for those things which do propagate, we naturally wish ourselves goods, which was in part the definition of love from Aristotle, to wish good to someone. Therefore, we naturally love ourselves. And so too, we naturally love those things we take to be part of us. Our particular nature as human, our particular size and shape, our particular ethnicity, our particular religion, etc. And since we naturally love those other things about us, we can easily love those same things when they are found outside of us, which is what the verse from Sirach is indicating. We naturally love things that are similar to us. This is the first way in which likeness can be a cause of love. As St. Thomas says, for the very fact that 2 men are alike, having, as it were, one form, makes them to be in a manner one in that form. Thus, 2 men are one thing in the species of humanity, and 2 white men are one thing in whiteness. Hence, the affections of one tend to the other as being one with him, and he wishes good to him as to himself. The second way in which likeness can be a cause of love is by inclination or tendency, that by tending toward particular objects, our faculties can be said to be proportioned or likened to that object, like sight to color. And this relation or inclination can itself be a cause of love. That's why we naturally love to learn. We naturally love to see and to hear. We even naturally love the virtuous man, because virtue is the perfection of our nature. And even if one may despise the virtuous man in other respects, because we ourselves are naturally inclined to perfection, we will love that perfection which the virtuous man embodies. As St. Thomas says, not all men have these virtues in complete habit, yet they have them according to certain seminal principles in the reason, in force of which principles the man who is not virtuous loves the virtuous man as being in conformity with his own natural reason. Article 4 in our last article, whether any other passion of the soul is a cause of love. All the other emotions of the soul are caused by love, St. Thomas writes. What we love determines what we hate, what we desire, what we have an aversion to, what brings us joy, what makes us sad. It is the reason for our hopes, our fears, our courage, our despairs, our anger. As summarized very clearly and briefly by Aquinas, every other passion of the soul implies either movement towards something or rest in something. Now, every movement towards something or rest in something arises from some kinship or aptness to that thing, and in this does love consist. Therefore, it is not possible for any other passion of the soul to be universally the cause of every love. Which brings us to the close of another episode. We have just finished questions 26 and 27 of the Prima Secundae, that is, of the passions of the soul in particular, and first of love, and of the cause of love. My name is Austin Habish with Think Catholic, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow.